I love the internet. I love the internet so much that it's become my religion. The guiding principle that helps me understand my own moral framework and what the purpose of my life is. And that's what I want to talk about today, what our purpose is when all of humanity is connected. When I was a kid, my parents made it very clear to me what my purpose was. I was to get a good education and then go out into the world and win it for Jesus. It was all right if I was, ideally I would have been a pastor, but it would be all right for me to be a lawyer or a doctor. That was okay too. My whole childhood was set up to support this. I went to church all the time. My mom even homeschooled me. The problem is that all I wanted to do was be on the internet. And so I would stay up really late at night, into the wee hours of the morning, and then I would fall asleep in the middle of the day. This caused a lot of consternation in the Gilliam household. By the time I was 15, it was the early 90s, before the internet had really become widely accessible. And I wanted to share this thing that I love with everybody, so I wanted to start an internet service provider. And so I concocted this whole plan where I would use this new open source free software called Linux. And I would take all the money that I'd saved up, mowing lawns, babysitting, teaching kids piano lessons. But the problem was I couldn't afford an office yet. So I needed to ask permission from my dad to put 30 phone lines into my bedroom. Alas, he said no. And it wasn't just any kind of no, it was a laugh me out of the room kind of a no. And this was caused a lot of tension between us. They started to take my computer away and lock it up, and then I would go and find it, and I would unlock it and hide it in my closet. I was adamant that they were ruining my life, but the internet was just a silly little thing to them. They didn't understand. Eventually they won, and I was forced to go to Liberty University. This is quite possibly the least wired university in all of America. Then, let me see, it was about, the story is not all that unique. A lot of the people in this room probably have a similar sort of tale where, our parents, our family, right, all of society really is kind of encouraging us to fill roles in society where we can make the most money. The story goes that you go to a good college, you get a great job, right, and so it's totally worthwhile to go into a lot of debt, right, in order to do this. But then you find out that when you graduate, the jobs aren't there because the way that it worked for our parents doesn't quite work the same way anymore. And then you have all this debt, right? And then you're like, well, what is it that I wanted to do with my life? You never had a chance to actually figure it out. So I was all set to go down this path until my first year at Liberty. And then both my mom and I found out that we had cancer. Now, when you're 18, there is no life plan that involves cancer. And so my whole world was flipped upside down. My mom died, but I survived. Then 6 months later, I got cancer again. This time, an anonymous donor gave me his bone marrow, and I survived again. So I was like, oh wow, my life mattered so much to me now. I couldn't waste another second of it, so I gave myself to the internet. I worked at 3 startups. I built a nonprofit. It was exhilarating, it was challenging, it was everything that I wanted to do. Then in 2005, I found out that all the cancer treatments, the chemo, the radiation, had slowly scarred my lungs to the point where I needed oxygen tanks, right, in order to breathe. Sorry. Let me just. Sometimes I have a hard time telling this story. Give me a second. A community of friends and doctors and strangers came together online and off to get them replaced. So I've spoken about this before. That was a speech that Kara mentioned previously. There's no way to adequately capture in words what it's like to breathe through someone else's lungs, to carry their legacy with me every day, to know that I am alive because someone else died. The gift is just too big, too incomprehensible. I felt an enormous debt, not of money, but of life. And the only way that I could think of to repay a debt of life was with my own, what I did with it every single day. But what could possibly be worthy of this gift? I'd experienced firsthand the power of a connected humanity. It had given me life. And I wanted to be able to use the internet to sort of give that to everybody, but not physical life, but for folks to not actually waste the lives that they had. When I was a teenager, I didn't like asking for permission. I just wanted to do what I loved, and that ended up working out great. So if I could make sure no one else ever had to ask for permission to do what they loved either, maybe that was my contribution. If every ounce of my soul wanted to figure that out, and so that's why I started NationBuilder. Every person in this room has something they are uniquely meant to contribute, something that only you can do. Martha Graham, she's a legendary dancer. It used to be like ballet, like before her, right? And now she was the one that sort of created the whole like that whole kind of style of dance. She does it much, much better. She does it much better than I did. She says, there is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that translates from you into action. And because there's only ever one of you in all of existence, that if you don't do it, if you block it, it will never exist in any other medium. The world will not have it. No. The world must have it. Not just because it makes it happier, but because it's our opportunity to repay the debt that we owe to each other. It took me a really long time to figure this out. I literally had to have 3 different DNAs in my body for me to truly understand that I couldn't do everything on my own, that I needed other people. But the reality is we're all a patchwork, right, of each other, right? We all owe our lives to all the people that came before us. The internet gives each of us the opportunity to pay back on our debt on a scale that was never possible before. Now that humanity is connected, instead of just offering it to your immediate friends and family and your community, you can offer it to the entire world simultaneously. The possibilities for your contribution are immeasurable. But let's be real. Most people are just worried about paying off their student or credit card debt, not their debt to humanity. As a society, we've backed ourselves into a corner, having optimized so aggressively for money that all our institutions and stories revolve around it. As individuals, we quite literally take our potential and we exchange it for money. It's called a job. And we're forced to do this because we have to put food on the table, we have to take care of our kids, we have to simply survive. Schools operate like factories, turning young creative minds into money-producing robots. We are squandering human capital in favor of financial capital. It doesn't have to be that way. Instead of focusing on jobs, shouldn't the goal be less work and more people doing what they love? See, the internet is exposing all this latent creative energy that we've been wasting. It's beautiful. Now, while some people manage to get paid for their creation, most people are just doing it in their free time. And look at what we've accomplished. If we figured out how to dramatically expand that, if we could create without having to worry about surviving, we'd have a massive explosion in wealth. We'd start to unlock the real potential of the human species. The internet makes this possible because the internet is not a thing. It's a rudimentary form of a hyper-connected humanity. And a connected humanity, that is God. What will a world of creators look like? I don't know. No one knows. That's the point. You get to decide. The creators, the people who find what they love and give it to the world, they are the ones that decide. You. I'd love the chance to be able to see it. I worry constantly about achieving my purpose before I die. The clock is so obviously ticking for me, but the truth is it's ticking for all of us. There are no rollover minutes in life. Yes, It's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to be vulnerable, to offer yourself, to take a stand for what you believe, but it's also the only thing that matters. Someday, we will all be held to account for what we contributed by our children, our spouses, our grandchildren, but most importantly, by ourselves. We'll look back on what we did with this precious gift of life. What will matter then is not how much money we made or how famous we are. What will matter is that we did the thing that we loved, the thing that we couldn't stop thinking about, the thing that inspired us. You have the greatest gift of all, your life. Don't waste it. Each of us is a creator, but together, we're the creator.
We're just going to talk for a few seconds. We got a few minutes just to talk about what you're talking about. That was incredibly, you make me feel so superficial. But oddly enough...
Maybe a little more optimistic.
No, it's not going to happen. Oddly enough, it sounds, you had a terrible brush with a health scare that is much more serious. I had a stroke last October. I happened to be in Asia and was on a long plane flight. And by the way, that's not a myth about that, what happening. And found I had a stroke when I got there and was in a hospital for about 5 days. It was a very short-lived thing, which was interesting. And it sort of got me thinking not necessarily about potential, but about more about disruption and breaking things more and doing what you wanted to do, which was sort of in the Steve Jobs mode, where the last 6 years of his life, he had very serious cancer, and he created most of the things people remember him for now. So talk a little about why you think the internet's such a positive thing versus, it was interesting when you got a little upset, you picked up your iPad and it calmed down immediately, which was somewhat interesting. Yeah. But why do you think the internet is the way to do this? Because it's a worldwide communication system that people like. I mean, what do you think it affords? Because many people think it's also a cesspool of hate and all kinds of things.
Well, I mean, it is in fact a mirror on us, and a lot of people look at the technology and the internet as like this inevitability, this thing that is uncontrollable, this thing that's just like we're all kind of subjected to it and we have no control. And I look at it very differently. Like, we are creating this thing. It only exists when we put things into it, when we create for it. And so what I like to do is I like to focus on like how do we inspire people to like make things that sort of make it beautiful and wonderful. And so look, I mean, you can certainly use it to do like whatever it is that you want to do, and there's plenty of that, but like there's a lot of opportunity to do some amazing things, and even to use what we're learning about the internet and apply it to broader society and kind of optimize for people and not, financial capital. Is what I was talking about.
Talk about that, because a lot of the focus has been on the financial, the ups and downs of, whether Facebook is worth this or that. Talk about just really briefly the 3 things you think the internet can do in that way. Just 3 quick things.
I think that the internet wants us to create. It doesn't exist without that, right? And money frequently is a friction that kind of gets in the way, that it inhibits connecting, right? And so the internet never really likes that, right? And because we have to make money and all this stuff, like there's all these efforts to sort of make that happen, but it's not something that the internet actually wants. And if you think about like all of the sort of capacity of people and that what we're wasting, we have all this potential in ourselves, and the people are like wasting their lives at these jobs that don't matter. They're like leaving a significant part of their creativity dormant. And if we were able to unlock that, right, to take, so that people didn't have to like spend like all of their time like just trying to like survive and like chase and get the fancy car and all this other stuff, right? Like that would create this sort of massive explosion in wealth, right? Like I feel like we sort of tapped out the whole financial capitalism thing, and we need something new, right, that kind of takes us to the next level. And the internet is showing us the way to that, and we're so obsessed with like the old way and like trying to make as much money as we can out of it that we're missing sort of the much greater significant impact that it can have.
And do you feel that it's moving in a positive direction with the heavy focus on money making on the internet and how it makes money and how it becomes a business?
I think we're at the early stages of sort of what I'm talking about.
Which is you're doing online community organizing. And
yeah, so NationBuilder helps people, leaders, organize communities to accomplish things. And obviously we have a lot of political campaigns and nonprofits that use it, but we're really providing a new model for leadership, saying like, look, if you can find the 5, 10, 50, 1,000 other people that want to do this thing that you want to do, you can just go and do it. You don't have to ask for permission or anything. And so by offering that as an alternative, or a very kind of Buckminster Fuller kind of a thing, right? It's like, if you want to change something, you don't fight the existing reality. You create a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. If you look at politics, we think of that as like a failure of leadership. And so providing new ways for folks to lead and encouraging everyone to become a leader, that's what it's about.
Great, well, it's terrific. I just very briefly, you fixed Jerry Falwell's or Pat Robertson's computer?
Jerry Falwell.
How was that? Don't answer it. Actually, you don't have to answer that. Anyway, we have to go on to the next video, which I think is going to play. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thanks.
Terrific speech. I urge you to watch it on the internet. It's fantastic.